on to the Free Association Task Force. The abstract for Free Association reads, Free Association for Guam is a status option in the upcoming plebiscite to be voted on by the Native Inhabitants of Guam. Those persons made U.S. citizens by virtue of the Organic Act of August 1st, 1950, and their descendants. This vote would like to give voice to us, the Native Inhabitants, and express our fundamental human right to determine our political destiny. As our political destiny is being shaped, the Native Inhabitants will be alive, the many voices of our experiences in what it is to be a Native Inhabitant in the 21st century. Truly a hallmark of our times and a bold statement that we are here and vibrant and that we can shape our own destiny with all the tools that the modern world can offer in order to bring about consciousness within our own community so long held and drugged with the notions that what is ours needs supplementation or is just not plain good enough. Today's presentation from the Free Association Task Force will be conducted by Mr. Adrian Cruz. Mr. Adrian Cruz was the Senior Policy Advisor for the Governor of Guam and has been the Chairman of the Free Association Task Force. He also serves as President on various nonprofit boards and has been a community advocate for many years for the Chamorro people since his youth. Sejus Masi, Mr. Cruz, for attending and representing the task force. The floor is yours.
Melvin Sejus Masi. Can everybody hear me okay? Yep. You know, we all were told at the beginning of this presentation, we were given a standard, right? We were supposed to lay out all these various points, but I'm glad that Dewey Huffer went first with statehood because that always gets me rolling, right? I'm sure all of us on the task forces are longtime friends, and we've been colleagues with each other on this for a long time. And so I really wanted to just go off and get right into the meat and potatoes, but I'll try to stick to the proposed slide scheme. So next, please. So freely associated state, what does that mean? It's probably the most strangest or the most misunderstood of the three task forces. And what it is basically an independent country that makes a deal or has a treaty with another independent country. In our case, because of our rules of engagement for a decolonization process, that country in question would be the United States. Next slide, please. So why would we choose free association? Why would that be a good choice for us? You know, as Dewey mentioned in the statehood presentation, yes, we do have a lot of ties to the United States. We do have a lot of binds that connect us there. I'm sure almost everybody in the Marianas probably has relatives that live in America. We probably all have people in our families who are in the military. We all grew up. I don't think there's anybody left really from the Spanish colonial era, but we all grew up learning and living in the Americanosphere, right? The world in which America and the English language and the American perspective on things has been paramount in our education. So it's true, we have cultural realities, and it's true that you would think that being with the United States would be something that we would naturally long for. But all of us alive today know that that just isn't true. In a few days, we're going to have a Spanish galleon come to commemorate the 500th anniversary of Magellan's circumnavigation of the world. That was 3 centuries of Spanish rule. We didn't get very far with self-government. We did to an extent, but we didn't get very far with self-government there. And now we are under the American flag for over a century. I remember I was in high school in 1998 when we celebrated the centennial of American rule on Guam. And really, how far have we got? I am not but a stone's throw away from the realities of my grandparents, my great-grandparents. We still aren't afforded the same rights, as other Americans are, as was pointed out in the statehood task force. Next slide, please. So why would we choose free association? Why would that be an attractive choice? Well, before we can get to that, we have to understand why we would even flirt with the notion. Why not just go with independence? Why not just go with statehood? Well, because of our cultural realities, because of the type of lifestyle that we are accustomed to, we could say that for all intents and purposes, we are Americans longing, in some respects, longing for full inclusion. But that's not our reality. The reality is we are less than American. And yet, when confronting the world, we approach them with American colored glasses. So free association would be the best of both worlds, a world in which we can negotiate how much we are willing to give in, how much we are willing to leverage for our own economic gain with an agreement with the United States, and how much we must assert ourselves on the world stage as a sovereign nation. And one of those keys is our socioeconomic realities. A lot of people are dependent in our islands, unfortunately, on a lot of aid. We are hampered in a lot of ways by our relationship with the United States. Take, for example, the Jones Act. Take, for example, that we are not free to engage in treaties with other countries, and includes trade treaties. Take, for example, that we do not control our EEZ. That is the purview of the federal government. We have a lot of things that we could do. And yet, part of the socioeconomic realities is we use the US dollar, which is a very stable currency. Our neighbors who are in freely associated relationships with the United States, Palau, the FSM, the Marshall, they also use the US dollar. We are used to, we could have US free trade agreements in which basically we would enjoy the same privileges that we do now in our tax structure or the way import duties are managed, simply because we have forged a relationship with the United States. And we would be very attractive to foreign investment and foreign ties in wanting to secure or land money here, simply because we would have a relationship with the United States, which would include our defense strategy. And so, Guam would be relatively safe in the face of a global aggression. Next slide, please. So if that's the case, then why choose free association at all? Well, Dewey in his presentation was talking about the desire of some people for statehood, the longing for it. This is 100-year-old dream for some. When will it materialize? What haven't we as a people done to assimilate? In how, as they pointed out in the insular cases, that we are somehow some kind of alien people who cannot understand Anglo-Saxon legal principles and things like that. When will this happen? The reality is it's not going to happen. Because if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now. You look at somewhere like, in one of the comments I saw, then they were talking about the size of population. You look at somewhere like Puerto Rico, they have like 5 million people. They voted for statehood. One of the reasons why they were turned down was because they're too small. Now compare that to 180, 180,000 people. Even if we throw in the CNMI, it's maybe what, 230 at the most, and that's still like the size of a small American city. I think Cincinnati probably has or Indianapolis probably has more people than that. So the political reality is that statehood is not on the radar for the United States for its territories. In fact, even the former President Donald Trump went so far as to make a comment to that effect, that it is not, it's not in the, you can't read the tea leaves and see it in our future. So the other political reality is this. Sure, it would be great to be independent. Sure, we would love to think that the United Nations would protect us if we had a foreign aggressor. Let's say China, who has lots of political ambitions in this part of the world. The reality is that's not going to happen. The United Nations has shown time and time again that it does not always respond to those types of needs. And that is where free association really has its leverage point. The leverage point is our location. All realtors say location, location, location. For 500 years, empires have crossed our shores simply because of our location. So that is our greatest asset. Silver or gold we do not have, but we do have strategic placement. They call us the tip of the spear. We are the unsinkable battleship. All those kinds of phrases. That is where we can find some common ground. On one hand, a large bellicose nation like the United States is very advantageous to have with us, especially one in whom we have a relationship with. Like it or not, the Chamorro people have a relationship and are part of the American family as we know it. But at the same time, if we want to engage in the wider world, we're going to have a new kind of relationship with the United States. And so that is where free association really comes into play. Next slide, please. So why would we choose free association? Well, one is our geographic realities. I mean, we're just thousands of miles away from Washington, D.C. We have all of our neighbors in Asia just on our doorstep. And there is so much opportunity. It is the playbook of colonizers that they sort of put you in a Goldilocks zone. They never let you get so poor that you'll revolt, but they also never let you get so rich or economically free that you realize that you don't need them. Well, I think the game is up. We see in our neighborhood all the potential. We have cables running through here. We have, before the pandemic, we've had a bustling tourist industry. There are all kinds of potential that we have. Our geographic reality is our greatest asset. And so for the United States, having a relationship with somebody like us is also advantageous to them for much of the same reason. Next slide, please. So how do we get there? Guam has been on the quest to change its political status since the Spanish era, coming up on 500 years of that history. It's going to take us as a community to really make that happen. Nobody's going to do it for us, because the times in our history when other nations, other peoples did it for us, the outcome was not so great. And so it is our responsibility to our progeny. It is our duty to our forefathers to really take this question in hand. Nothing will move unless we push for it. And unfortunately, I'm sure all the other task forces will agree with me, one of the greatest obstacles we have, excuse me, is political apathy. People just not caring enough. Dewey was right when he said, you know, the world is your oyster, basically. What we do with the future is really up to us. And he's not wrong. It really is up to us, but it is up to us also to do the hard work to make this reality come about. Next slide, please. So one of the ways that we're trying to get there now is the UN option. So the UN made this list of non-self-governing territories, and of course Guam is on it. It's one of, you know, just a handful, right? And the United States has put us on there. We are on the list, and so one of the ways that we can exercise that is using that to our advantage. And we recently had a declaration that many countries have signed in favor of Guam's you know, political status. And so we have to pursue this UN a way of doing things. We have to have our vote. Sorry, I'm going to rush through this because I just was informed that I only have a couple more minutes. Next slide, please. So here comes the most critical, the most fundamental of all the questions, and that is, who is the self and self-determination? Who gets to make this awesome choice? Well, self-determination is not the right of a place. Not just everybody can vote here, because self-determination is not a right of Guam per se, as in the island of Guam, as in the rocks, the trees, and the sand, and the geographic location. It is not that right. Self-determination is a God-given right that is inalienable. And so when we make this suggestion that somehow we need to beg another country or politely ask or campaign to have our vote, no. It is a right that should be more dear to us than any other freedom, because it is the bedrock of who we are as a people. Some people would say that everybody should have a chance to vote in this plebiscite. In a perfect world, maybe that might be true, but in the fallen world of Adam that we live in, we cannot hope to do that, because to do that would mean that you trample on the rights of the Chamorro people to exercise their inalienable right to determine for themselves and freely what they wish to do in their own homeland. You know, one of the things that Melvin pointed out was that people, Chamorros even in the States, cannot vote because they have already made the personal decision to determine for themselves that they want to be closer to the United States by moving there. They voted with their feet. The same would hold true for people from other places who choose to live here. You already voted, you voted with your feet. But the people of Guam whose feet have never left this soil, they must be afforded the right, as every other sovereign people on the face of the earth have, to be able to determine for themselves once and for all what they choose to do, to recognize their human dignity, to make them truly equal in a multicolored world. Next slide, please. I think I'm about done. I'm getting the signals already. So where do we go from here? I put a flag of the Guam and the Northern Marianas because I think it's a struggle that belongs, again, to a people, not just to a place, not just to Guam, but to the Chamorro people who call the entire Marianas home. This is a struggle. This is an act that needs to be exercised together. And where do we go from here? I don't know. You guys tell me. You tell me where we're going to go from here. Because ultimately it's up to me and you. I'm trying to do my part. ask yourselves, what do you want to pass on to your children? What kind of a future? And if it's something that's different, then I suggest that everybody find the fortitude and really push for something worthwhile, whether that is statehood, free association, independence. That's for you to decide. But together we have to make and move and find our being in exercising and announcing to the world that we matter, we exist, and we have our wherewithal to figure out how we're going to plot our future. I think that's it for me. I think my time is up. Sizus Masi para todos hamzu, Piot Hagu Melvin, Zan Hagu Lokwe, Dr. Carlos Madrid, Zan todos hamzi man otru unoni todo hamzu sa zatafan agoti kanay, zatafan matsotsu ni diduru sa bulat si tota mamala. Sizus Masi.
Hagu Mas, Adrian, thank you for your time and your presentation. We're going to jump right into questions so that we can stay on pace. There was a question earlier that came from Lawrence J. Cunningham, which asks, are independence and statehood the only viable decolonization political status choices? Thank you very much for your presentation. I think more appropriately, I think we've answered that just by you being here. I mean, you know, obviously there is a task force because free association is included in that that list of options, but I think more appropriately is maybe ask why, you know, why does free association exist as part of these options? And, you know, what are some of the general differences? I know this is a lot, but you could sum it up. What are some of the general differences between free association and the other two options?
So why is it an option? Because the world is not black and white. The world is not in or out. The world, as we have seen in the past year in this pandemic, is so interconnected. And it's about forging relationships. There is no, this idea of countries, I mean, unless you're North Korea, this idea of being some insular do-all and end-all is a fallacy. And as a species, as part of the human race, you know, we all have to learn to do this together in a realistic, in a cooperative manner. You know, climate change is going to affect places like Guam and the rest of the Pacific more so than it will for larger continental countries. And so more than ever, we have to find our rightful place at the table. We cannot afford to let people be making decisions for us because the stakes are too high. And so because of that, free association is an option. It is an option which I feel, and my task force feels, is probably the best fit for the people of Guam at where we are at right now.
Thank you, Adrian. I think that was very well stated. This is not necessarily a question, more so a comment from Brian Fitzgerald, but it is relevant to this discussion. FAS works under a compact impact agreement that usually requires agreements of national defense by one primary country and agreements for land usage in time of war and emergency. This is more so of a comment, but I think that the question really is, you know, no freely associated state is the same. But how do you imagine a freely associated agreement? And I should say by law, preface this by law, our plebiscite, if and when we have it, will not say free association. It will say free association with the United States, which is very specific, right? So I guess that would be the appropriate question: is what do you imagine this relationship would look like specifically for emergencies and times of war?
Well, it will look like it looks now. They own 1/3 of the island. You know, I don't think that's going to change. I think the only difference is going to be that we'll probably be getting rental for that. But again, no country is in and of itself wholly apart, right? Chamorros are patriotic. How many Chamorros are in the army or in the military in general? Like Dewey said, we have like one of the highest per capita rates. Do you not think that the Chamorro people will, with our American partners, rise to the occasion when needs be to defend freedom everywhere? Of course they will. And so it's not going to be very different now. That's the other thing that I think needs to be stressed about my position, is that it probably will be the least realistically disruptive. And when I say that, I mean statehood to me is not realistic. So if you have the two, independence and free association, I don't think you're really going to skip a beat with free association. It's basically just extended freedoms from what we have now, but the relationship is still going to be the same. You know, I don't envision much change, other than the fact that we're going to be able to negotiate more with international partners. But other than that, our day-to-day life, our way of living, the geographic layout of Guam and where things are, it's not going to change much.
Thank you. I think that was a appropriate response and relevant, definitely, to this discussion. Let's see. There were a couple other more so comments. I did want to bring up that there was I think this could work. This is from Bruce Leal. In what ways does the current political status of the island hinder its crisis response in the face of a global pandemic? He didn't ask this, but I think it would be appropriate for you to kind of predict, how does free association status impact, our current situation? How would it change?
Let me bring you back to February of last year. So if you knew, all the regional neighbors locked themselves down. In fact,
right,
the rest of Micronesia really doesn't have any COVID cases. Yet Guam, right? One of the reasons were, and I remember distinctly, I would read hundreds and thousands of comments. Lock it down. I'm sure you remember that, Melvin. Lock it down.
Close the airport.
Close the airport, right? We're an island. The ocean will protect us, right? Well, guess what? We could not, because we don't own the airport.
Right.
The governor is not
a controlled facility.
That's right. Okay. So how would being freely associated, have changed that? Just look at the neighbors. So the other thing was, we had the opportunity we would have the opportunity to engage more with the outside world and be more collaborative. We have a duty as a Pacific island to the rest of our Pacific neighbors. And what we could do as a staging area to help our Pacific neighbors deal with the pandemic as well, who knows? It's our duty, it's our cultural duty, it's our duty as human beings to help our neighbors. And Guam really has not, simply because we're dealing with the United States and we're under its purview, and whatever we do has to be with that. So those are some of the things that we could do if we were a freely associated state.
Thank you. The last question is from Bruce Leal. Let's see. This question is in regards to
I want the fiery ones.
What about the reunification of the Marianas as part of decolonization? Chamorros were divided across geopolitical boundaries, and this division has created social, economic, and political challenges.
I agree. Most definitely. That's the idea, but there's a caveat to that. That's not up to me. That's not up to me. That's not even up to the people of Guam. That is something that we can talk with them. But it's true that we were artificially separated. But that rift has been so long, and there were real wounds that were inflicted due to circumstances beyond our control, that we have grown apart and have matured separately. So I would love for us to be reunified with the CNMI. But again, that isn't me to issue a fatwa out to, demand this. That is something that we as siblings have to undertake and work together. I would love for our commission to be able to talk with the Decolonization Commission and the CNMI. I would love for us to collaborate, and we should. But out of respect to them, I'll leave that to the powers that be there. Just know that we on Guam are with open arms. One of the things that's funny about this upcoming celebration for the Magellan Day is, it elicits a lot of visceral reaction, right? And a lot of things about wounds and past hurts. And those really play into who we are today. But let us not keep trying to drive forward by looking in the review mirror all the time. It's good to know where you came from so that you can figure out where you're going. But don't constantly be looking at those wounds in the past to prevent you, to use as a stumbling block. Why do I bring that up? Because that's the most obvious and the biggest thing coming up. But one of the issues with dealing with the CNMI is our deep wound. Nobody hurt you as much as your family. And the wounds of World War II, are some people live with the very physical scars on them from that. But what I want to say to our brothers and sisters in the CNMI is that this is a different day. We're different people. We are a whole new generation. And yes, we must remember those historical wounds in the past, but we also must stand together because our blood runs from the same ancestors. And those are the ties that bind, and it will never unbind the relationship that we will always have with the CNMI.
Zeus Masi, Adrian, thank you for your presentation, the information, and your responses to the questions. We are right up on time, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the Independence Task Force. So Zeus Masi, Adrian.